Hi, Kathy here from Kathy's Cute Creations. I thought I would wear the Friends shirt. How much more appropriate than getting together with all my YouTube subscribers, who are my friends, to do the first week in the Fort Worth Fabrics. This is the download sheet for all your directions for cutting our fabric. So I will do that first. If it is too long, then I will break it up and we'll have two parts, but it'll all come out on the same day today. And the first one we're going to make is this one here. And that is actually the block. I was talking to the lady at the place that I get my hair cut. So I'll talk to you about that. Pretty good that it was the first week. Keep in mind, if you iron, now's the time to iron. If you starch, now's the time to starch your fabric. So I'm not going to starch mine, but I'm going to iron it. I went ahead and I ironed all this fabric. Now I might have to iron the white one again because it is double over on here, on this end here. But this is how I'm going to lay it out to keep it from getting totally wrinkled as I pick each piece. Here I am testing out that new ruler. Now I've laid it down because what I'm trying to do is square up. And what I'm going to need to do, now that I'm looking at it, because this thing does not have any marks on it, so I'm going to have to trust my ruler right here, the board, which I'm going to lay out on this line right there in order to get a correct cut. Make sure I got it all in there. And there we go. Spread it out. Let's get up here as close as I can because I think the end is right up there. Okay, and then press down on this. Now I did get my rotary cutter all cleaned up because I just didn't press hard enough though. There we go. Okay, so there we took off that because we want to square it up. And by the way, this is fabric A called Modern Background Paper Handwriting. You should have 1 yard and 4 inches. Now the very first thing you do if you're new and you don't know how to do this, please try to use the same exact rulers. When you are cutting on a piece of fabric this size, you want to make sure your ruler is off the edge on the top and off the edge on the bottom. This gives you more stability and there won't be any shifting. You want to use 2 of the same rulers if you can. If you can't, because you don't have 2 identical rulers, that's okay. Keep in mind you want to use 1 for the measurements and then 1 for the cutting. So example, this is not the same as this. This is a Creative Grids. This one is a 6.5 inch. I only have to cut 6 1/4, so I have counted over to 6 1/4 mark right here on my ruler, and then I can use this as the ruler that I'm going to cut up against. But every time I measured, I need to use this type of ruler. This is called a Creative Grids. So this is what I normally use. I have them in all different sizes, so I can take, if I needed something a different, like bigger, I have a 10 inch square. I could use it because they make all their rulers the exact same way. So there's not going to be any discrepancy on the sizes. If you notice that when you get 2 rulers, if you measure them up, you put them together, either on top of each other, side by side, it makes no difference. You can actually tell when they're different sizes, even though they say they're the same. Just like cutting boards, it's the same thing. They all say 1 inch, but some of them are off 1 inch because it's their inch, their calculation. It's okay that they're off and that they're different. This is the reason you want to use the same exact tool. Then your whole project is going to be exact to those tools. So let's go ahead and all I do is lay this down. And then what I'll do with this ruler is I'll go up here to make sure that this is actually 6 1/4. And the way that I lay my ruler down, if y'all have been following my videos and you've seen them before, is that I take the line, and let me get a tool to show it to you. I'm going to try to do this left-handed here. So this little line right here, which is this black line, I take my line and I lay it actually on the fabric when I do my measurement. I don't lay it outside the fabric. I come on the fabric. So I'm getting a little bit more, and the exact width of that line of extra fabric for my 6 1/4, which isn't much, but when it comes time to sew your 1/4 inch seam, it'll mean a lot. So I always want to be able to see my line just to make sure, to me, I'm straighter. Okay, so that's my whole reasoning behind it. If I can see this little line on every bit of that fabric, I know that I'm lined up correctly. And that's the way I do it. You don't have to do it. If you want yours to be off the edge here, that's fine. You can do it off the edge. And then I'm pushing down on here. And I want to keep my cutting tool straight up. I don't want to go sideways like this, nor do I want to go sideways like that when I'm cutting it. I want to be straight up and down and put a lot of pressure on it. And don't be bending your wrist because you don't want to get carpal tunnel. That'll aggravate it if you've got it. I do have it really bad due to a car accident. But if I always cut holding it like this and keeping my wrist firm, I don't have any problems with it. And that's what you want to keep in mind. You don't want to hurt yourself cutting your fabric out. So there is my very first cut. They want me to subcut this into 4 pieces that are going to be 6 1/4 by 6 1/4 inch squares. And we are using this fabric for week 1, which is today. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue cutting out the strips that I need and hold off on the subcutting, but I'm going to put this aside because this is for week 1. So the next thing tells me that I'm going to want 3 pieces that are 5 1/2 inch squares. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to slowly smooth this out. I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to go to 5 1/2. Lay it down. So I've got this on the half, which is right here, and it's all on top of my fabric. And then I take this, put it up against here. I'm making sure that each end, the top and the bottom, is off of the fabric. Now I'm going to slide this up a little bit and make sure it's on there. It is. I'm going to come down, and it is at the bottom also. And then I'm going to press down on here, remove my ruler, like I said, straight up with it, just like that. And there's that one. Now this says it's going to be used in week 2. And then it says that I want to cut 2 strips that are 5 1/2 inch strips. Now, as long as I do not pick up this fabric and I just keep moving down, I do not have to recut this corner to square it up. Once I pick this up, it's going to move it. Now, I don't think I need to cut all of this white fabric and show you. I'm going to show you how I'm going to subcut this piece. The very first thing that it says is you're going to take fabric A and you're going to take your strip, which is the first one of 6 1/4 inch strip. That's what this is here. It's folded in half so that you can see it like that. I'm going to take it just like it is. All right, now I'm not going to use this extra long ruler. Now's when I come down and I use this size ruler. Now remember what I said, these are the same brand of rulers. They're both Creative Grids, they're just different sizes, that's all. Now, what I'm going to do, you're going to take one that's going to fit over the edge, both ends, which is this one, that's fine, doesn't make a difference. And they want 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. So the very first thing that you need to do is you need to take, since I'm going to be cutting from the right hand side, which is open, this is where the fold is at. We want to square up this right hand corner. So to square this up, let me take this off of there. We're going to take this ruler here and we're going to put it on the end. This is the selvage. See this right here? That's your selvage. You don't want your selvage in your fabric because you don't want something showing like this on your fabric. So this is where my selvage ends. If you don't know, based on, because this is blind side here, flip it over. I have not distorted my fabric. It's still on top of each other. Then I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to go as far to the left so that I can cut all this off. So you can see where the letters are right here on the wording. I'm going to take it down here, and I'm going to focus on a point here. So this is 1 3/4 mark right here. Just like before, I will make sure that I can see my black lines right here. It's going to be on the fabric. Then I take my hand and I try to put part of it on the fabric and part of it on the ruler so that the ruler doesn't move. Although the bottom of this ruler does have some little pieces of, let me see if you can see them on this ruler here. Let's see if I can get that up there. See that thing right there? Okay, that's a little bit of a rough edge, and they've got it all along this ruler here. That is so that the ruler does not move. But sometimes it can move if your fabric is slick or you're pushing too hard. So I try to kind of get my little finger or 2 fingers on the fabric, which gives me a little bit more stability. Hold this straight up, cut it off, and that's it. That's discarded. That was a good mistake to make to show you. This is a 1/4 inch right here. All the way up that line. Let's see if I can get the glare off there. And you can see it actually says a 1/4 inch down here. I'm trying to keep the glare off. So I've lined it up the 1/4 inch, the 1/4 inch. So all I got to do is cut it with the glare. I don't have enough lights in this room is my problem. So I have to use my overhead. So now it is 6 1/4. And since I had it folded in half, I have 2 of the 4 that I need. So now I'll just do it again. I go down here. Well, I could use a camera person today. Alrighty, she's not here. So my 6 1/4 is this right here, which is 1/4 inch. And here's my 6. It goes from 1 to 6. And I just mark it 1/4 inch right there. So I have 6 1/4 inch. And then cut it. And then I now have 2 more. So I have the 4 pieces I need for today. Okay, so I want to point out that if you notice when you're reading this, and it says you're going to cut 1 piece of a 6 1/4 inch strip, it is letting you know that you're going to cut 4 pieces 6 1/4 by 6 1/4 from this one strip. In addition to that, you're going to cut 3 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 inch squares. You're going to set them aside for week 2. Unless you're only cutting week 1, then just follow and do the 4 6 1/4 by 6 1/4 for week 1 and just set it aside. Skip the second part if you're just going to do it week by week. Go down here, you're going to read your next line, and you find out that this right here, 4 by 4 inch squares for week 1, that would be the only thing you're doing in this one here. Because the other, the 7 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 squares are for week 2. So if you don't want to cut up all your fabric, you don't have to. So let me tell you, I messed up. I prefer to cut it all up, but I still messed up. And since I'm only limited to so much fabric, I had to switch out my white fabric. So my white fabric's not going to look like your white fabric, but I substituted with other white fabric that had writing. B says that you're going to take 1 piece, and so you have 2 pieces. You get the 1 piece, and then you got a little small piece. Here it is right here. So here's the little piece. Now this thing says that this is a 6 by 10 piece. So let's just measure it. So it's going to be 6 this direction, and it is. And then it's going to be 10 without the selvage, and it is. So on this paper here, our directions, it tells you to take that piece next, and then you're going to cut 4 1/4, 4 1/2 by 4.5 inch squared. And then you're going to save all 10 of these, because this is 9 of these, 4.5 by 4.5, 1 4.5. So because you can only get 9 out of this one piece of fabric, that's why they gave you this little 6 by 10. So you're going to take all 10 of these and set them aside for 2 if you're doing all the cutting. If you're not, don't worry about it until week 2, and then you can cut your fabric out. Alrighty, so this gig'em here, of red and white checked, is going to be your fabric C. And you're going to take one strip, 5.5 inches, and you're going to subcut it for 4 5.5 inch squares. That's going to be used for week 3. The next thing they want you to do is take a 4.5 inch strip and subcut that to make 6 4.5 inch squares for week 2. Let me show you how I'm labeling them. So see the yellow pieces of paper? I'm doing fabric C. This is 4 of them at 5.5 inches, week 3. Fabric C, I need 4 at 4.5 inches for week 2. This is how I'm keeping it all straight since I'm cutting it all out at once. I've already squared it off by cutting off the end. And I'm going to measure 5.5 inches because all of our squares are going to be 5.5 inches. We're making 4 of them. We're making it out of one strip. So there's our one strip. Then we're going to cut one strip 4.5. There we go. So I didn't push down hard enough. There we go. And now we're going to subcut those, but first I'm going to go ahead and cut 6 2.5 inch strips for the binding, because this is what's going on the outside of the quilt, unless you want to change your color. If you are one of those people that want only white for your binding, then you need to get some white fabric for your binding. Or if you want pink or one of these other colors and you have them, then that's what you want. Okay. And it wants 6 of these. Okay. And I will continue cutting. So I have all 6 of those done. Now this is your fabric D, which is called the Good Life Floral Dot Red. This measurement from here to here is 7 inches. This is going to be the width of the fabric. I have it folded once, and we want to cut 5.25 inch by 5.25 inch. We want 5 of these squares. They're going to be held back for week 2. And you cut off the selvage, which I did here on the end. Then I put my ruler down at 5.25. And I keep them paired up like that, even though they're going to be wrong sides together. There's no problem there. That's going to give me 4 of them right there. I only need 4. No, I need 5. So in that case, I'm going to unfold this and do 1 because I don't want an extra one. So 5.25. And then I'm going to show you, since it is 7 inches that way, then what we want to do, and I'm going to leave the 2 together. Alrighty, these 2 each have 2. And so what I'm going to do, let me make sure I'm in the camera here. Alright, so I go to my right side, and I'm going to cut it off to make it even. So I line up the bottom down here. Now it's square on this side and this side. I'm going to turn it around, and then I'm going to go 5.25. And since we know the top part was the one that was squared, we'll just put our ruler up there and down here. And then we're going to take this end off. Okay. And there's our square. That's 5.25. We're going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to go on to the next one. I put an X. I will show you here as I go along. All I'm doing is putting an X, which means I did that row, and it's all finished, the whole thing. Then now we're going to go to fabric E, and we're going to repeat the same process. If you've been watching my videos, you saw me do an orange peel, wall hanging, and quilt. And that's what this is. That's orange peel right here. And this is the fabric we're going to use, and it's E. So just repeat what I just did with D, and then I'll bring you back on when I do F. I have out here fabric F, and it is called the double medium dots white/red, meaning the background is white and the top part is red, so that you don't get this confused with the other fabric that has a background in the red and the dots are white. So first we have to cut off this selvage here because we don't want those holes in our fabric. And this is the one that has this extra piece. So we're going to be cutting a total of 8 5.5-inch squares, including using this piece because we'll only get 6 out of this. Now remember, this is folded. So to do a 5.5-inch square, we're going to get 2, 4, 6, and that will be our 7th one, unless that's long enough at the tail end. We'll find out as soon as we get done. So there's 5.5. Alrighty. Now I have 6, and I do believe when you open this up, and I'm going to go ahead and square up this corner on the left. Okay, there we go. And now all we got to do is you're going to turn these. Remember, we're going to turn them this way because they're all too big. And let's go ahead and let's see if I can double up on this here. You just want to make sure it's 5.5. It is going to be 5.5, so I'm going to square off this right hand side. And then I'm going to turn it here and do 5.5. Now if you have a turntable and you want to use it, you can use it. I just haven't brought mine out here, so I got my little one actually over here with my tripod on it. There we go. And I'm going to put these two on top of each other. Line them up. You specifically want to make sure that the top and the bottom is lined up because you're going to be trimming off the right and the left hand side. There we go. And there we have it. Now all I got to do is make them all right side up. Then we're just going to mark it. And that is all of it. That is 8 of them. And they're going to go for week 3. Now we have our fabric G, which is this grunge here. And it's called Grunge Basic Metallic Formula 1. And we are going to repeat the same thing as we did for F. So you're going to take this piece right here and you're going to cut 7 5.5-inch squares. And then you're going to cut 1 from here. Alrighty, I just realized I only cut out 7 of the white with the red polka dots, so I've laid the fabric down here to, I don't know what I was thinking, but anywho, I put the other one to make a 7th one there. I mean an 8th one. The number 8 for the polka dot, I'm going to make it the same time I make it for this one, but I'm going to go ahead and cut out the 7 out of here. What I'm doing is I put the large piece of grunge, the large piece of the polka dot, and then the smaller piece of the grunge, and I'm squaring it up. That's the first thing I'm doing. I just stacked all 3 on top of each other. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut my 5.5 inches. Then I'm going to turn it. I'm going to move this one over to the right. And go ahead and take the ends off of it and square it up down here. And turn it. And do 5.5 inches. Alrighty. I've got these two stacked up. I probably don't like that, so let me take them off. They're too distorted that way. Let's just do them one at a time here. I know this video is a bit long, but for all the new people out there, they need to see a little bit of this. And we are almost finished. And then everybody can take a break. And then I will upload this video. And then I'm going to go ahead and come back and start that first square and talk to you about the hairdressing appointment that I had. And I'll actually talk to you about the lady that was sitting next to me that spoke with me. I have not forgotten about it. This square reminds me of it, that we're going to be working on this week. And that is it. And I will label it. Alrighty, so I have H laid out. And it is called Dotty Medium Dots Christmas. So it is the red fabric with the white polka dots. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut 1 6¼ inch strip. This is the width of the fabric, the long ways. So I'm going to move this little extra here. I'm going to cut off the, first off we're going to cut the selvage off. And I'm going to use this ruler because it is longer and it needs to be longer than the fabric. And I can see all the little holes in here, so I'm just going on the right hand side of the holes because you don't want any holes in your fabric. Okay. You don't even have to worry about getting that in straight, I don't believe. We're going to now turn it because we need to straighten this here. We need our 6¼ inch strip right there. One strip that's 4 inches. Okay. All right. Set that aside. Let's do this one first. We've already got the selvage cut off here. So now it says that we're going to need 4 6¼ by 6¼ That's 2 cuts since this is folded in half. So let's do our 6¼ Okay. There's 1 by 6¼ All right, there's 4 of them. Alrighty, so I think that this is going to give me the 4 3/4, 3.75 on my ruler here. I'm starting here with the 1. Oops, get that out of the glare. So I'm coming over to the right here. This is 3/4 or 0.75, however you look at it. Almost 4. So I can see that, yes, I can get the 4 out of this fabric folded. Otherwise, if you don't think you can get it out of this folded, by all means, open it up so that this crease right here doesn't mess you up with thinking and looking at it. So I'm just going to put it on the 3/4 line here. 3 3/4. Three 3/4. You'll have a teeny weeny piece like this left over. And then all we got to do is 4 inches because it wants 4. And we already knew that this was longer than 4 inches. You can lay this down here and see it's almost 5. So I'll just, I don't know if that corner, oh, it might need to come off a little bit. So let's just take a little bit off the corner here, just to square it up. Yeah, it was off just a hair. And do 4 inches. And then if you want to double check while you're at this stage, take your ruler all the way to the end, put it up against your fabric here, and here's where my number 1 is. So just go 1, 2, 3, 3/4, so you know it's correct. So you know that this way needs to be the 4 inches. And I'm just moving a little bit down before I take my 4 inches here. And that's the size you want. It's not quite a square. It's a 1/4 inch short of a square. Okay? If you feel easier making a 4-inch square and cut one side down, you can do that too. Whatever the math works in your brain, that's what you need to do. You know, sometimes this gets too confusing for a lot of people. So if you have a different way to work it out to come out, then do it your way. Okay, that's those two. Now we can go back to these. And these were 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. So I've got to take them and put them put them in order here. And these are squared. Those are not, these are. Now we have this strip. They want us to cut 4, which is already this length, or width, however you want to call it, it's width, by 3 3/4. So we'll just take our ruler up here. Remember, 3 3/4 is almost 4 inches. They want 10, so there's 2. And that one's off a hair. Oh, that's off away here. Darn it. Shoot. Okay. Oh, okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and the total is going to be 12. We'll get 2 out of this. And actually, we can just fold that. And I will cut that off. And do it 3 3/4. And then we will cut this a 4. Hopefully that's all in the camera. Oops, I'm running out of the camera space here. Let's get up here. And make sure that is, yep, it is. And I just need a 4. There we go. And that's going to be for week 1. So let's make sure we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Somehow I wrote 10 and it's actually 12 of them because I didn't add the other 2. And this is all for week 1. Okay, we'll put a pin on that. First I was getting a little worried that we didn't have anything for week 1. Now I see it piling up over there. A lot better. Okay, so that is it for H. All of that was for week 1. Fabric I, which is called the grunge, hits the spot red. They are going to be 5, and we're going to cut all 5 at 2.5 inch. And that is going to be for week 4. So let me get it out here so you can see it. And it should be your last piece of fabric that you have. And if you have any more fabric than what I have just shown, then you got extras in your package. So everybody should have the same amount. Here is the fabric I was just now talking about. This is it. That's the inside. This is the outside. And I'll tell you what, if you don't like that outside, all that grunge stuff, you can use the inside. Nobody says that you have to use one side or another when it comes to fabric. This is just as pretty. You can tell it has grunge on it. It's just not as much as this metallic type grunge if you don't care for that. You can use either side of your fabric that you want. Lots of people forget they can do that. I've done that on a couple of quilts. I liked the inside a lot better than I liked the outside. It was either bolder or it wasn't as bold. Alright, so I'm not going to cut the salvage off. I'm just going to go ahead and square this up and cut my strips. Let's see here. Get it all laid out. And we're going to go with, let me get that out of the way. Just smoothing it out a little bit here. Okay. Let's see where my lip is. Oh, it's not too much, just a little bit. Okay. Let's straighten that out. Okay. And now it calls for 2.5 inches. So here is my 2.5. And we are wrapping this up for cutting fabric, y'all. And that's it. Cut out all 5 of your strips just like that. When you're all finished cutting it out, this is what you're going to have. So starting here from the right, we have week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4, which is the assembly. All right, so that's everything all cut out. I'm going to take a break, get this edited, get it uploaded, and start on the first block. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, part 1 of week 1. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I'll be back shortly. Bye-bye.